In the last lesson, we learned the symbol quarter note, which represented one pluck, or one beat, which was another term that I used. Now, the beat in music is the steady pulse that underlies most music. Sometimes you feel it or hear it very obviously. It's what you tap your foot to. So we're going to learn about different durations. Last time we learned only the quarter note, which was equivalent to a beat. So we were going pluck, 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 1, 2, 3, 4, plucking on each count. We're going to now look at rhythms or durations that are longer than a beat. And we have 3 new symbols to learn. The first symbol is called a half note. The half note has a hollow note head, as opposed to the solid note head of the quarter note. And the half note represents a sound or a pluck that sustains for 2 counts. So if we have a count of 1, 2, 3, 4, la, that would sound for 2 counts. La. The next symbol is called a dotted half note. It is the half note symbol followed by a little dot. It represents a sound that sustains for 3 counts. La. Finally, we have the whole note. That is just a hollow note head, no stem, and it represents a sound that sustains for 4 counts. La. So, the first example that we are going to look at mixes the different rhythm symbols. We're going to see quarter notes, half notes, dotted halves, and whole notes. This is example 2A in the text on page 11. If we look at that example, you'll see that we begin with a half note, E. Remember, when the note head is placed in the top space of the staff, it represents the first string called E. We have a mixture of a sound that lasts for 2 counts, one that lasts just for a single count, and then in the second measure, we have the dotted half note, which you'll recall lasts for 3 counts. As you look at this example and you play it, you'll want to keep track of the counts, of the underlying meter, which is the beat groupings. 1, 2, 3, 4. As you play and pluck, you should be following these counts. Now, for right now, they're written underneath example, but we'll abandon those in the next one. So let's go ahead and see what example 2A sounds like, and you should play along with me. One thing that's important with these examples is to play them over and over, but try not to memorize them. You want to read them at sight. That means you're avoiding memorizing them. If you have to pause and go back and do it again, that's a good idea, because these videos will just go through the examples fairly quickly. So this is example 2A, page 11. Notice I'm going to place the thumb of my right hand on the 6th string, and I'm going to start by then placing my index finger on the 1st string. And recall from last week, or from our last lesson, when we pluck through the string and hit the string behind that, we call that a rest stroke. So we're going to alternate doing that with the index and with the middle finger. So here is example 2A. I will count 4 counts in, and then we will begin together. Try to follow along. I will also count as I play the example, so you will hear that in the background. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Notice that there's a double bar there at the end of the example. That means that's over. I mute the strings at that point. So now here's example 2B, page 11. We're going to do the same thing, but notice if you're looking at the example in the text that you do not see the count underneath. This is up to you now to keep track of that. Example 2B, I rest my thumb on the 6th string, index on the 1st string. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. Notice how it was a little more difficult when I stopped counting. You're supposed to keep counting. Now, in these exercises that follow, I will continue for a while, but then I will no longer do that. Okay, so now we're going to move to example 3A in the text, and this covers the 2nd string B. The 2nd string, remember, is the 2nd closest to the ground. It's the 2nd most thin, and it's the 2nd highest in pitch. That's why it's numbered string number 2. It is called letter B. On the staff, letter B is the note head is in the middle of the 5 lines. String number 2 is represented by the note head being placed on the middle line. Notice there's also a circled number 2 to remind you. So example 3A. I place my thumb on the 6th string. Remember that's finger P. And this time I'm going to place my index finger on the 2nd string, and we're only going to play B's. Here's example 3A. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. We move on to example 3B, page 12. Playing the open 2nd string B. Remember, as you do this, you want to follow along visually with the examples on the page. Here we go. Count in. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now that's fairly simple to do, but pay really close attention to alternating your fingers. Notice that in the examples, every particular note that is indicated has either an I or an M above it, and you want to follow that as closely as you can. The alternation, the training of alternating your fingers is extremely important to learning how to play. We're going to move on to example 4A. Example 4A combines the 2nd string B with the 1st string E. On the staff, they're fairly easy to distinguish because B, the 2nd string, is indicated by placing the note head on the middle line, and E, the 1st string, is placed at the top of the staff in the top space. So we have B, 2nd string, and we're going to use E, 1st string. Whenever we're switching from one string to another, the temptation is going to be to want to repeat a finger. So pay particular attention to alternating here. Example 4A, page 13. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll try one more. Example 4B. Again, combining the first string E with the second string B. And this time we're going to lead off with the middle finger. So I'm going to begin by placing my thumb on the 6th and my middle finger on the 1st. Now there's a logic to why we start with one finger versus another, and we will cover that in some following lessons. Here we go, example 4B. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.